welcome to our expert webinar here with Tag Marshal. My name is Bodo Sieber. I'm the CEO and co-founder, and we're delighted to have you on board with us for our session with Shepherd's Crook, and I'm super excited to have Kaneko on with me, the Golf Ops Assistant Manager from Shepherd's Crook. Kara, how are you this morning?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Very nice. We do notice your backdrop. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm currently sitting in one of our two simulator bays. I'm sitting in the Trackman Bay here at Shepherd's Crook, and it's a chilly day here in northeastern Illinois.
Got you. Okay, so you found a cozy, quiet spot
I did.
for the session. Brilliant. So our headline today is Revenue and Retention, how Shepherd's Crook is using data and on-course optimization technology to unlock sustained growth. And we are presenting this in conjunction with the PGA Illinois section. So for those of you from the area, you can get PDR credits with us. You don't have to do anything other than be online with us for the full duration, and we will get your details out of the Zoom registrations, make sure that your credits apply. And you also get credits if you so wish, Kara, which is only fair. You put the effort in. Okay, let's get going. I'd love to learn a little bit more about Shepherd's Crook and also yourself and your journey in golf and how you got to be in the seat that you're in today.
Well, hi, I'm Kara, and I've been with Shepherd's Crook for the last 11 years, and we're part of the Zion Park District. We're owned by them. I've been with the Park District for 15 years. I started out here after graduating from college. I went to school for public recreation and equestrian management. Ended up out here after graduating and started just as a bartender and a cook, kind of worked my way up the ladder. I'm also the food and beverage manager here, along with being the event manager and the assistant golf operations manager. So I wear a lot of hats here. But we're a public golf course in northeastern Illinois. We're almost in Wisconsin, so if you pass our driveway, you're going to be in Wisconsin. And we're a couple miles from Lake Michigan. We're kind of one of the hidden gems out here in northern Illinois. We opened the course in '99, so long before I was here, but we just celebrated 26 years. And we were designed by Keith Foster, and we're currently ranked number 7 out of 25 top public golf courses in Illinois, and we hold an all-time 99.1% recommendation rate on Golf Pass.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Short version.
Dramatic pause on that accolade, and I think there's a reason that you're on this session with us today is because clearly you are with your team ahead of the game when it comes to creating that service and making sure that your golfers are happy and want to come back 100 times over. So that data point that you just mentioned speaks to that very, very clearly. I'll tell you a fun story. So Wisconsin is actually Tag Marshal's original birth state. Our very first partner were Erin Hills, and a bit further up the road from you guys. So we're always very fond of Wisconsin and obviously the surrounding areas, because that's really how we started in golf, right? And that's now 10 years ago, and a lot has happened since. And ironically, you've also had 10 years or so with your employer now. Tell me how many rounds do you guys do a season, and how does your green fees work? What is sort of a low number? What is a prime number? I'm assuming that you use some sort of dynamic pricing as well.
Yeah, so we do somewhere in the neighborhood of 23 plus thousand rounds. Obviously, it's very weather dependent in this part of the country. We've been open as early as February and closed as late as December, certain years where the weather has allowed us to do that. But typically, it's usually sometime around April 1st to about the first or second week of November. So we're getting pretty close to the end of our season. We're planning to close in about a week. Um, and our standard round price during the week, our weekday prices in the neighborhood of $60 to $69, kind of depending on walking and riding and senior versus resident rates. We don't do season passes anymore. That's something we got rid of a few years ago, as we were just so busy that we needed to kind of slim down on the amount of charity rounds we were giving away. So that was something we got rid of. Our weekend rounds, we're currently in the neighborhood of mid 90s. Those are for our premium tea time, and we've gone to prepaid, which has been very nice for us, to about 1 o'clock, and then we cut those off, and those we drop in price and kind of go towards our $69 range for
Gotcha.
middle of the day.
Brilliant. That's fantastic to hear, and I'm glad that you are using that high demand, limited supply stage that we're in as an industry, and you certainly earning the right to those fees and also to be prepaid, right? That shouldn't even be a question. Um, and yeah, brilliant to hear. So, if you'll allow me just a quick introduction on Tag Marshal. But before I do, if anyone online has any questions about the system or the way that yeah, Kara and the team at Shepherd's Crook use it, or more general questions, feel free to drop them in the chat function or the Q&A, and we will make sure to pick up on them. So, Tag Marshal, I was too quick here. Uh, we, yeah, actually, this 75 million rounds tracked headline is about to change. We did more than 20 million this season alone. So, it's probably fair to count this into the 100 million now at this point, or certainly come the PGA show. And yeah, one of the key items for us is the data, and we've got more than 10 billion data points collected, and our system learns from that. And we're excited to now work with over 700 golf courses, and some of them are the very best. I mentioned Erin Hills being our very first one, and obviously we'll keep them forever on this list. But there's a list of what is probably 50 of the top 100 now. And that includes anyone from Pebble Beach and Bandon Dunes across Baltusrol, Valhalla, all the way to the old course at St. Andrews. So really the who's who of top operators. And for us, it's obviously very flattering that they're trusting our system. But we also excited because we get to work with operators that really are ahead of the curve and learn from them, right? And I want to just go back one step again. So at the end of the season, we do our Tag Marshal Awards, our annual awards. And the Shepherd Crook team is a gold partner of Tag Marshal. You may not have known because this is about to launch actually in the PGA magazine. I think end of would be next week or whenever that comes out. So this is brand new off the press, and this is really based on benchmark data, right? So across 700 or so courses, you are passing the gold standard here, and yeah, that's another reason why you're on this session with us. And thank you again. So yeah, to get us going, what would you say if you had to pick any three items here are key when it comes to creating the best possible player experience in your point of view?
So I think one of the things that golfers tend to complain about when they go to a course is pace of play. So that's been a really key focus for us. we've always tried to keep a pretty good pace of play here, keeping an eye on things. Prior to Tag Marshall, we were kind of in the 4 hours and 15-minute range. And we've since brought that down pretty close to 4 hours. So that's something that we really have focused on in the last couple of years. And um, it's when something happens out there and backs up the course, it's the first thing people seem to complain about. What keeps golfers coming back though is often course design, I think, and good course conditions. I mean,
Mhm.
if they don't have a good time out here playing, and it's either a very frustrating round for the average golfer, or it's not hard enough for the better players. That's definitely has something to do with it. We uh, have a very kind of old course feel, where the golden era of golf in the 20s and 30s, that's kind of the feel that Shepherd's Crook was shooting for when Keith Foster designed it. So we have a lot of that long fescue. We have some very strategically paced hazards, and we have really dialed up the fast greens. So that's something that they've worked on as well. And they're constantly making course improvements out there. And so it's just we've got a little bit of everything for everybody.
Got you. Okay, so you mentioned a pace of play, design, and conditioning, and I think those are are very, very valid. Ultimately, I would say that is really where value comes in, right? So if you have a really nicely conditioned golf course and things move smoothly across it, that's value to a lot of players. And yeah, it's really covering the bases. So yeah, you won't be surprised, but course conditioning is ranked top by players. 82% of players saying is a key factor for them. Then what else players rank high is playing partners. They always want to play with a friend rather than an awkward stranger. And then pace and flow of play, right? So we all understand that the controllables within that, right? So for you to improve your course conditioning by 30% or by 10% would be a huge effort and a huge so budget consideration. But well, what if you wanted to make our pace of play better and more stable? That's obviously almost as important to the players, but it's a fraction of the cost and effort ultimately, right? And that's obviously what our solution is there for. And the last yeah, data point actually comes from the National Golf Course Owners Association, and they're asking the operators, the course owners, what are you going to focus on the season? And they said this year that yeah, pace also ranks among the top three. And I think that's yeah, probably in part because we have had such a high demand period, right? There's just so much golf that wants to be played, and so many golfers are trying to get out there, but we have to manage them so that we don't become our own worst enemies, right? Um, if you're thinking back a few years there, Kara, two questions. Like, what did you guys used to do in terms of rounds? And maybe if you may not have the numbers, but anecdotally, sort of pre-COVID, and also how did you used to manage things out there before you had technology?
So pre-COVID, we were actually headed towards a management company option just because we weren't making money. We ended up hiring our current golf operations manager, Alan Parkes, and he really brought a lot of improvement to the course and changed a lot of things about how we operate. And we ended up going to 8-minute tee times, just trying to squeeze people in, knowing that we were going to have a lot of no shows. People did
Mhm.
that a lot. We had a lot of um, discounted rounds, just trying to fill out our tee sheet. Obviously, post COVID, it was the only thing you could do outside. And
Mhm.
um, we're all super grateful being in the golf industry that that's exploded. Um,
Sure.
so prior to Tag Marshall, though, we did a lot of things on paper. So our
Mm.
starter would sit there with a sheet, print off a tee sheet, mark when somebody starts their round, and we mark when somebody makes the turn. We didn't have a way unless we had enough staff to go out and keep an eye out on what was happening on the course. We don't see them until they're making the turn at 9, and we mark down, okay, they're relatively close to 2 hours. That's what we're looking for. But then they fall down on
Mhm.
the back. We don't see them again till 18, and now it's 4.5
Sure,
hours, and we didn't know what happened out there. So
sure.
that's it was always a little difficult, especially I know it's been hard for everybody trying to keep a full staff. So
Yeah.
having a tool like Tag Marshal has been great, where even if we have to function on a skeleton crew, we have somebody that can kind of keep an eye on what's going out on the course without ever having to leave the clubhouse.
Nice. So, it really sounds like you were very much on the defensive there for quite a while, both operationally but also economically, right? So it's fantastic to see that things have turned. Maybe one last question on you mentioned, yeah, you did 8 minutes just so you could obviously get a bit more capacity out, knowing full well that it would be difficult to manage. And maybe did you ever feel that this came back to bite you on certain days that yeah, things were so busy
It
that
it
you actually
did
had
maybe
yeah.
on weekends
Mm,
when we had players that were making the trip. We're pretty equally located in between Chicago and Milwaukee, miles wise.
yes.
So we get a lot of those weekend players are coming from Milwaukee and Chicago to us. So yes, it did kind of bite us in the beginning on occasion though, but we knew we
Sure.
were planning for no shows. So we were squeezing
Right.
them in where we could. Now we've since we're kind of catering more towards player experience now, we're
Mhm,
not as worried about packing a full tee sheet. I mean, we are selling out tee sheets most of the time now during
mm,
the season, but we're at 12-minute tee times before 1 o'clock, so that's super rare. Most people are on 8 to 10 minute
mhm,
in
mhm,
the area. So to give people kind of that COVID feel where you kind of
mhm.
feel like you have the course to yourself and you're really spread out from other people. We're on, 15 and 30 minutes then,
Sure.
giving people that opportunity to have 12 minutes and be kind of just with your foursome and not have to worry about a group behind you pushing you or trying to catch
Mhm,
up with the group in front of you. Um, we've definitely gotten to the point where we feel like we can do that and offer that to people, and
mhm.
everybody seems to really like that option.
Nice. Okay. And obviously that then shows in your rates, right? They have to go up alongside that. And good for you. Um, yeah, let's look at a bit more research here because you mentioned from your experience and also obviously being on the receiving end of the golfer sentiment. Yeah, you've seen this often enough, but there's 1,000 touch points in the player experience, and this incidentally comes from research that was done by the University of Wisconsin Stout on behalf of the USGA, and they quizzed a couple of thousand golfers and did extended multi-month research at a number of facilities across the country, and they found that there literally are 1,000 touch points in the player experience, and it ranges from the booking your round to loading your clubs in the trunk, driving through the gate. All of these are touch points, right? And having a starter, a brief, halfway house experience, whatever it is, all of these are touch points. And they found that out of 1,000, some of them rank really high when it comes to delighting players, and some of them rank really low when it comes to frustrating players, and some really don't matter all that much. They're neutral. Whether you do them fantastically or not doesn't matter so much. So the goal was to find out what really makes play experience and what breaks it, so that we can do those things better than we used to, right? And what they found is that the absolute bottom ranking points here in this 1,000 touch points are both pace related, and there's nothing worse for players. And the one is other people's speed. Like you mentioned earlier, that's when the phone starts to ring and somebody says, "Hey, this group in front of us, or two groups in front of us, holding us up, and this is going to be a 5 hour round. What you going to do about it?" And then on the flip side, corrective pace of play actions. That's when a marshal goes and talks to a group and says, "Hey guys, you're slow." right? You need to get on with it, and players really cannot compute. They don't want to be called slow. So those are the negative side. And then on the flip side, the most positive element out of 1,000 touch points is the positive martial or play assistance etiquette. And this ranks even higher uh, than conditioning, for instance, right? And that really makes people's experience. It makes their day. And the other thing that's very important also in the top five here somewhere is information provided about pace of play expectations, scorecard in the golf cart or via the starter. As often as possible, as much as possible, just talk about pace because players want to feel like you value their time, right? And they want to make sure that you will take care of them out there and they don't get held up by other people, right? So that's what this is about for them. Are you surprised at all that out of 1,000 touch points in the player experience that pace is like on the top end and on the bottom end at the same time?
I don't think so. I think the most surprising thing is that there is 1,000 touch points of player contact before, I mean, half of
Yeah.
those even before they get to the first tee.
Hmm. No, for sure. No, it's a fascinating study. We make sure to share it, and anyone who would like to see it, we can send a link to the presentation. The way they looked at it was a pre-round, arrival, on course, post round, and extension. Extension means how do you stay in touch with your golfers once they're no longer on site with you, right? And if you think about it, there's yeah, you get to a couple of hundred touch points very quickly, but obviously, you have to be a researcher if you really want to max it out and get to 1,000. You will find ways to do it. Um, Okay, so now it is 2025 and Shepherd's Crook is dialed into technology, and you are very proactive in how you manage things out on your fantastic golf course. Uh, just taking a quick step back, so Tag Marshal is primarily a business solution. So our goal is to make sure that you can do what you need to do with fewer labor hours and with much more technology-based line of sight. So it comes in two forms. One, there's a live map where we want to show everything that moves and really make sense of what happens on your golf course. And there's a whole world of back-end analytics data to help you analyze how we're doing and where can we make better decisions and incrementally improve. And on the front end of that, we have walking trackers like you might find at Erin Hills, which is obviously the home of many very good caddies. Or you can have a hidden away tracker that goes in a golf cart and can also cart stop, or you can have an 8 or 10-inch GPS unit. And what these units need to do is send data to our system, and the system then makes sense of all that data that comes in. So as far as Shepherd's Crook is concerned, tell us a bit about the system that you have and also what type of carts do you have it installed into?
We have the 8-inch, obviously you could see there. Um, we've had these this is our second season with these now. And we have gas Yamaha carts, which we are currently leasing from a company just north of us. But we've been very happy with them so far. Not had any
Um,
issues, especially obviously these don't come off the carts when we
Mhm.
put these into storage. The company that we lease from, they take them all away, and we bring them all back.
Mhm.
We've not had any issues with these.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think maybe worth mentioning that we can install in any cart, right? And that, like Kara mentioned, includes gas carts. The majority application for us, obviously electrics, but we do know that there is sometimes it does make economic sense to run gas carts, or there's just topography that is not suited for electric. So that's great to hear. And then, yeah, one of the things that's key, obviously, to making sure that things work well is to have that real-time line of sight and that live map. So at Shepherd's Crook, who have you got dialed into this, and how do you use this data in the day-to-day?
Um, so we utilize Golf Genius quite often for our tournaments. So that's one of the nice things I can upload um, our roster and then attach those foursomes to carts and have it kind of ready to go. They can do all our scorekeeping on there, which is great. We really only run Golf Genius through our carts a couple times a year for when we have our whole course shut down for a large tournament or fundraiser or something like that. Um, but other than those other things on the side there, golf now does not integrate well at this point. Hopefully that changes, but right now they don't integrate well. But being able to see what's going on the course, we can catch a slow group. By hole 3 is our goal. Obviously, the first 2 holes, it can be a little difficult to kind of gauge where people are playing and how their pace is going to be for the rest of the round. But if we can catch them by hole 3, 4, or 5, those are great touch points for us. So being able to see where they are on the course and be notified based on the color that they're delaying somebody or they're holding a group up. We don't use the walker feature. We don't have the things to give walkers. We don't have caddies here either, as we're a little bit of a smaller course. But sometimes there will be a little gap in there, like, well, is it a walker group or is it just that there's a large gap? So we can send somebody out and we're like, okay, well, we know that's area is a potential problem and things are starting to turn purple or red, and we know that those are problems, and we can send somebody out there to take a look at those and kind of highlight those sections, whereas maybe on the back 9 there are no issues and everybody's green. And so that's kind of how we keep an eye on pace management. We've got this pulled up in the pro shop on a second desktop computer so that the guy in the pro shop can keep an eye on that in between checking in golfers. Several of our marshals will use the tablets. Not everybody will. There's some of the older gentlemen who just, they don't like it and they would rather do the thing that they've always done on paper. But some of our other guys are really great with technology and they're willing to use the Tag Marshal tablet and keep an eye on things and kind of work in conjunction with our pro shop, keeping an eye on what's going out on the course and catch those delayer groups early, which is huge.
Yeah, I think you're making a big point here. Is you want to get on top of this early, right? So your strategy to try and get that established around hole 3 and between hole 3 to 5, I think is super important because the longer it takes to especially if there's a negative trend, the longer it takes to get on top of it, the harder it is to untangle, right? So being proactive is great. And then from a messaging point of view, yeah, do you remember a time when you used the pen and paper, and then sometimes the phone would ring, and you would have to go out there and or your player assistants would have to go out and confront people, versus what that's like when you actually have data in your hand? Um, yeah, the just from a how do you approach the players? Because one of the things that we've learned is that it players normally want to be compliant, right? And that's obviously where it helps to have a screen because it shows them the same colors and their status too. And they don't want to be told, "Hey guys, you're slow." So one of the things to one of the language options to choose here is to say you're a bit out of position, right? You're half a hole out of position, and you can then actually show them. Is that something that you are working with your team just so they have a positive and constructive approach to these interventions when they need to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's nice that the golfers are able to see on the bottom of their screen, hey, you're this many holes behind pace, and we set those goal times with you guys early in the season, and we've adjusted those a little bit here and there to now that we've kind of got a feel for the system. So we've set goal times for each hole, and as players play, they can see on their screen you're behind, you're causing a delay, but then we also have the ability to send a message, which is great.
Mm.
Not all rangers are created equal, and sending out a marshal or a ranger to somebody to confront them and they have no idea what they're talking about, that happens on occasion, and nobody likes to be confronted. So being able
Sure.
to do it from the pro shop and say, hey, just want to let you know you're a little bit behind pace, please do what you can to stay on top of the group in front of you, see if you can pick up the pace a little bit, and just give them a just more gentle message in the front end before we have to send somebody out because it's becoming a problem now. And that's also very helpful because you can't always control what people are going to do. Um,
Yeah.
but also because of our staff being willing to use the tag marshal tablets, they can drive out to a golfer and show them the map and say, look,
Mhm.
you're 2 holes behind. This is the time you started, and this is the data. You can see it right here. You can see it on your
Yeah.
screen. We can also kind of hover over these tags, like say tag 28 there is purple and they're way far behind, and we kind of want to see, oh well, why are they behind? Well, it was because they were in the fescue hall. They were looking for balls longer than
Mhm.
they needed to. We can see exactly where they have driven all day at this point in their round. So we can go, hey guys, the fescue's long. There's really no need to spend 20 minutes looking for a ball. You can pick up more on the turn.
No, 100%. And I do think you're mentioning an important point is that you can actually see the history. How did they go hole by hole, right? And at any time you can check back in and you can see the gap time to the group ahead. So in this case, group number 28 is 22 minutes where they're supposed to be, 8 or 10, right? So it's a big difference. And obviously that is yeah, immediately visible without you even having to get out on the golf course. So that gap time on it, interesting enough, that comes from the tour space and how the tours like to manage their field. But we found it definitely has an application also in the day-to-day management here because it's just such a quick and easy view to see gaps in the field, and it over and above the color coding. Yeah, so one of the things that we mentioned is that the pace information gets displayed on the screen, so the players basically can self-police a little bit, and hopefully they do. And from what we're hearing and the feedback that we're getting is that because our system does not just use a static grid application of pace, meaning you started at 9 a.m., 1 hour later you're supposed to be here, and if you're not, we're gonna turn you red. It really takes into account the relative pace of the group versus the group ahead, and other groups ahead too, right? So if this group is delayed, well, why would we tell them that they're slow? Because it's not their fault, right? And that is exactly where a system that is a bit more um, uh, basic may fail in that the players then just start to ignore it, right? But if the information is accurate and makes sense to them, then they're like, okay, now I'm falling out of position. Now I need to actually speed up. But another thing that's helpful is that we can show carts ahead. Is that something that would be good for your players at Shepherd's Crook? Give us a use case for when that makes sense for them to check where the cart ahead is.
So we have a few holes, especially on our back nine, where there are blind spots. So we have several holes in a row where you have to kind of hit over the top of a hill and you can't see the group in front of you. So you might be okay on your tee shot, but your second shot, you have no idea. So you're just waiting for somebody to get out of the way. Tag Marshal has the ability to see where those carts are in front of you. So on those blind holes, now the group behind you doesn't have to wait and wait and wait and guess if you're in a place where they're not going to hit you anymore. You can see where those cards, oh, they're on the green now, or they're on the next tee box. I'm okay to hit. I don't have to drive up there and wait for them or anything like that. So that has been a really great feature for us and has definitely sped up some of the pace of play for us on certain holes that are blind on the back nine.
Yeah, 100%. That does obviously take a lot of time and or put players at risk, right? So it's good that that's there. And then, yeah, talk to us a little bit about how you use the messaging. Yeah, I know that you're next to the lake. Sometimes the weather's a bit unpredictable. And how do you use the interface to yeah connect with the players?
Yeah, so it's got a great advertising and messaging feature. So for the advertising bit, obviously you can use that to advertise for a local restaurant. We don't do anything like that. I mean, you could utilize it for that purpose if you'd like to, or sale in the pro shop or something like that. We utilize it for notifying our golfers on hole 8. Hey, we've got brats and dogs on the turn ready to go. If you'd like something else and you'd like to order off of our menu, please call ahead. Here's the phone number. Here's a QR link to our menu. Feel free to call our bar and they'll have something ready for you on the turn. We also have a partnership with a tea time assistant, Notify. So we've got a QR code on the back nine. Hey, if you can't get a tea time or you're looking for a tea time, scan the QR code, it'll link it right to our tea time assistant, which has been a great feature for us.
Mm.
And then, hey, on 18, please don't forget your rangefinder keys, phone, wallet, all of that good stuff, because people leave that behind all the time, as many of you other golf course operators know. So, hey, we're not responsible for those things. Please check your carts before you leave. So we've utilized it for that purpose. And then obviously being close to the lake, and in the Midwest, the weather is often unpredictable. So being able to, we don't have a weather system on course. I know a lot of other courses do, but we do not as a smaller course. And we don't want to put our staff at risk sending somebody out to go and blow an air horn to notify golfers to come off. So we can sit in the pro shop and send everybody a message and say, hey, play at your own risk, but there's a weather system moving and we would really recommend that you seek shelter on
Mhm.
course or come off course. We can give you a rain check, play at your own risk, whatever that might be. You can kind of customize it and notify golfers with a separate screen, or just send them a message and let it ping them, give them a sound alert. Um,
Mhm.
they can also message us too, so they don't always have to call us and say, hey, there's a backup on hole 5. We need somebody out here and you missed it. Somebody can send a message to us and say, hey, there's a problem out here. We'd like somebody to come out. They don't necessarily have to call into the pro shop, which has been great too.
Nice. Okay. So there's obviously lots of usage here of that two-way functionality, which is great to see. And you mentioned the usage of a QR code. And I think this is an absolute no-brainer to utilize, right? Because you guys can basically, yeah, create any sort of advert you want to in Canva or in PowerPoint, and just size it, upload it. And the QR code, the nice thing is like it's dynamic. You can make it link to whatever you need it to link to, and that gives you a nice interface that you can control, yeah, including to notify, for instance. That's brilliant to hear. So, yeah, one of the things that you mentioned, and I want to congratulate you and the team again, is your high ratings. Um, and that obviously speaks to very happy players. And the biggest gift that they can give you is obviously wanting to come back, right? They intend to return and tell their friends that it was fantastic and they must also come. That's how you stay in the game. And again, like I'm so happy to hear that you're in such a different world now to where the club was 6 or so years ago, right? Where yeah, everything was on the defensive. But golf needs to remember that. We need to remember that time because having an influx of new players, many of them having been bitten by the bug at Topgolf, for instance, is fantastic. Having players dust off their clubs and join the game again is fantastic. But golf still loses 21% of public golfers a season. 21%, right? So out of a total universe of 45 million people involved in the game, that is a big number of players that we're losing. So sure, let's attract new players. Sure, let's optimize our tee sheet so we can get more players out there, because if somebody's excited to play but they can never get a tee time, or if their rounds take 5 hours, they're not going to play that often. The key is retention, though. And yeah, another consideration is that also the youngest cohort in golf, you can see that on the right here, is now the biggest, right? That's also not been the case. And you can, the moment that golf makes it onto Netflix, something happens, right? And we've seen that with the Formula One and other sports that were under the spotlight, and all of us, even chess. Did you watch the Queen's Gambit? Do you know how many people pick up chess on the back of that? So there's obviously a culture influence here that happens that golf is a beneficiary of. So question to you is how do you think about the different types of players that come to you? Do you see different patterns across week versus weekend? How do you accommodate who wants to play at Shepherd's Crook?
Yeah, during the week, during the day especially, those are our older golfers, our senior golfers, people who are retired and can be there during the day. I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. But a lot of the times, Mondays and Fridays, we'll see a lot of younger golfers because they're able to work from home now, and they're taking a long weekend, and maybe answering emails from their golf cart. So
Yeah.
we've definitely seen kind of on the front end and the back ends of weekends are largely younger players, and we really don't see a whole lot of those 50 plus age golfers out here on weekends. It's very much largely the younger players. We've gotten to see a few more women. We don't seem to attract women golfers in general, but we have seen definite increase in female golfers out here as well.
Yeah, that's great too, because obviously that is the other big focus. How do we get more yeah women to play, right? And yeah, it's great to see that that you have you obviously open to different generations of players and making sure that you accommodate them. Just with regards to the dynamic pricing and what are some of the factors here. So, unsurprisingly, under 40s are much more sensitive to longer rounds of golf, right? And the reason for that is obviously, well, many of them have got kids, right? So, for you to be away from your family for 6 hours is a stretch versus if, and also saying I'll be home in 5 hours and then it is 6 hours probably makes the next outing you want to do it more difficult. So under 40s are willing to pay more for a faster round. And also they want quality assurance, right? Because the other challenge is that, well, I can't play that often because I have kids, right? So if I do play, please make it count for me and give me a fantastic experience. So those are all items to consider when it comes to yeah, pricing and also marketing your rounds. And it's fantastic to hear. And you spoke to some of your results already that you're now getting very close to 4 hours. And we'll dig into that in just a minute. But you also mentioned, Kara, that yeah, there's obviously a big difference between 15 minutes during COVID, 12 minutes, which is a bit more luxurious, versus 10 minutes versus 8 minutes. Like, how do we find the balance here? And it's not just a case of let's make things nice for our players, but we have to make the economics work for the golf course too, right? Because 12 minutes versus 8 minutes is basically, uh, yeah, uh, um, yeah, 40% of inventory that we're giving away just to add a bit of breathing space. Can we add 40% more on top of the price to balance this out, right? And that's not always possible. So just a consideration is, well, do we go flat out 12 minutes? Then we have to really ramp up our pricing, or is there a way that we can use different intervals, right? So your approach here is that you have certain times of day you're almost reserving for um yeah like a experience
Yeah, we're catering to the
luxury,
player
right?
experience
Yeah.
earlier in the day because those are your golfers that are serious players. Those
Hmm.
premium tee times, especially on weekends before 1 o'clock, those are the people that have kids and they need to get home. And so they're willing to pay $100 for a round of golf at 5:30 in the morning because they know they can be done in 3 hours. But they're setting the pace for the day as
Sure.
opposed to somebody who's, well, got their whole afternoon free and they don't have anywhere else to be, they're going to play at noon or 1 o'clock. And they don't care if it's a 4 hour and 15-minute round. They don't care if
Mhm.
they're right on top of the group in front of them. They're being pushed by the group in behind them. Those guys that want to play in 3 hours, they're going to go at 5:30. sometime in that early morning slot where those premium tee times that we're catering to the player experience with the more serious
Mm.
golfer.
Got you. Yeah, but it's and I'm really happy to hear that you're willing to be flexible and also just experiment a little bit what works, right? And that's always where like I'm excited for operators who are dialing into this our system's ability to do different intervals and manage things accordingly from a pace point of view. And then also we can even set up different goal times, right? We can have certain types of day that we're running faster versus other types of day where we're running a bit more relaxed. It doesn't have to be one size fits all. And the difference here between 12 and 10 minutes, and I know this doesn't strictly apply to Shepherd's Crook here, but 13-minute tee times gained, right? Well, what's that worth, right? So on a 250 day season at $100 average per person, obviously maybe less, maybe fewer business days that you can run. That is $1.3 million of opportunity, right? So we always want to challenge the operators to think, well, now that we have control over what happens out on the golf course, can we start to dial this in and can we get more inventory out there so that we can get more players out there? Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned, Kara, is uh, increasing efficiency using automation in terms of you used to run lots of pen and paper processes and you used to yeah then also goes through the ups and downs of finding good staff and retaining them. um, let's talk a little bit how that now works with your on-course system being dialed in to the status that it is now. And one of the tools, obviously, that's um, useful here is geofencing. How do you guys use that? And from a superintendent mandate point of view, how is it helpful to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to Tag Marshall, we were probably on average in the 4 hours and 15 to probably 4 hours and 30 minutes on a longer round. Um, when we didn't have the ability to manage that a little bit more carefully, like we are able to now. And right now our average is about 4 hours and 3 minutes. So our goal is 4 hours. So just to be a little bit over that, obviously we have the occasional round that comes in over
Mm.
our goal time, so that screws with our averages. But 4 hours and 3 minutes is our annual average right now. So we've definitely narrowed that down in using Tag Marshall a whole lot. But we use geofencing in a couple of different ways. We have fescue. Obviously, that can slow down our round significantly. Somebody shanks it into the weeds. And while
Mm.
our fairways are fairly wide and forgiving, the hazards are not. So we have those marked off because we don't want people driving in those natural areas anyways. So even if they're not roped off, we do have those set to alert people if they get too close to those areas. And we like that it doesn't turn off the carts, just
Mm.
beeps very annoyingly at people. And that's something that golfers will often complain about. They get stuck on the side of a hill because they didn't know, and now they can't back up, and somebody's got to come and
Mm.
help them,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
they're in a dangerous place now because they can't go anywhere. So we like that our carts don't shut off. It just is very annoying to people. It gets
Mm.
them to leave that space. And obviously, if they end up at a place where like, yeah, you really shouldn't be there, we can see that and we'll get
Mm.
notified that somebody had a geofence breach. We can keep an eye on those and send somebody out to go and address that. But we also have cart paths throughout the whole course. So if for some reason we have a torrential downpour, our course drains fairly well, so it's very rare that we'll shut down the whole course. But we may tell golfers, hey, it's not even 90 degrees. You got to stay on the cart path. It's just too wet out
Mm.
there. It's too squishy. You're welcome to play, but your carts need to stay on the cart path. So we can turn on that geofence alert for when we don't want people to drive on fairways and maintain those carts on our cart paths. So we've drawn boundaries around all of our fairways as well. It's a click of a button, can turn that on if we decide that we want to go cart path only. So that is a very nice feature too. We can keep an eye on it without having to send somebody out to drive the course constantly.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And obviously, weather is dynamic, right? So for you to have things set up and ready when you need it and then turn it on or off is great. The other aspect here is you can time geofences, or you can set them for days of the week, for instance. We've even recovered golf carts that were stolen on the back of being able to track them. But you mentioned an important point, and that is the question of cart stop, right? So. Um, yeah, generally I'm fully in your corner here because golfers don't want to be patronized, right? And that's why it's so important for us to show the geofence on the screen so the players actually know, hey, like here's the boundary. I'm not supposed to go further. So you can turn that on and then it does beep at them and you can picture a truck reversing, right? So it's hard to ignore and players need to then yeah confirm and obviously get themselves out of there and they don't want to stay because it's going to disrupt your play, right? So it's not worth it. But there are obviously circumstances where there might be elevation or like risk to player safety and you or it's extremely sensitive turf where you need to cart stop. So we have developed that solution too. Um, but yeah, the majority of operators are exactly like you. We're saying we want the players to see it and hear it, and then we're relying on them being compliant. But even if they're not, the nice thing is that you have what we call a track map, and a track map really is a history of every single round that gets played on the system, and you know when it start, when it end, what was their pace status across the round, where were their geofence breaches, were there any interactions with the team that were logged? Yeah, is that something that you guys use and look back at when it comes to post-round conversations?
Not on a daily basis, but we do pull monthly reports and see, okay, where are the tracks,
Mm,
um, where are kind of the hazards that have been visited regularly,
yeah,
what slowed down pace of play if we have a round that was a problem or a really angry golfer for some reason. We can go back and see what happened during that round and
sure.
why that golfer was upset. And we're like, well, actually, you don't have a reason to be upset. So we can ignore those
Yes.
ones, obviously, too. So that is a nice added feature.
Nice. Look, with your 99.7 success rate, there's not a lot of that happening, which is by design, right? Yeah, I know that obviously the superintendents are the unsung heroes at any operation, and for them, the more data they have, the better. And one of the things that we've built is that you have a heat map tool where you can see where do the carts go, where don't they go, and there's a twofold benefit. One is well, if carts go somewhere all the time, is there compaction risk? But also, what if carts goes to some areas on the fairway if they never go there? How, can we maybe save money here, right? So, is that something that you guys have started looking at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially after our first year of utilizing Tech Marshall, we went back and looked, okay, where are golfers visiting a lot? Where's our course getting beat up? How do we manage that? Say like on a blind hole, what can we do to minimize risk here, both for a safety piece and for player experience. So, like on number 6 this year, we decided to elevate the tee box. Number 6 here, the tee boxes were very low and in front of
Mhm.
a or behind a very marshy area, so you couldn't see beyond the marshy area. It's often caused a lot of balls because you'd clip the top of the marsh and all of the weeds there. You'd lose your ball. You didn't have any idea where it was going. It wasn't ever intended to play like that, but over time,
Mm.
cattails grow and there's nothing you can do about it. It's an expensive thing to remove. So we ended up building a set of new tee boxes, cleared out a tree line, leveled off an area, and elevated all of our tee boxes on number 6. So now you can see that group in front of you. You have a clear line of sight to the fairway. It was something we got approved by our architect and worked with another group of architects to build that. along with our superintendent, and that sped up the pace of play a ton just on that hole because you
Nice.
can see where you're going. You're not
Mhm.
losing a ball anymore. You have lower risk of that. The tee box is facing out towards the fairways before it kind of was
Yeah.
angled off in a direction towards the woods that line that hole. So that's that was a big help to us as we were in that planning stage.
Nice. Yeah, look, I've spoken to an operator in Colorado, and they realized that at a certain hole, yeah, like there is just a 3 or 4 minute variance to how they think the hole should play, and then they realize, well, if we just take out this one bush, which literally costs us 2 hours of effort, and yeah, we can save 3 minutes here, right? So, yeah, if you have the data, you can obviously dig into that. And data is also the theme of our last section of the session. Um, that is a very nice photo. What hole are we looking at here, Kara?
So that's nine, that first flag in front of us there. That's nine green, and then right behind it is 18 fairway. And then beyond that, you can kind of see the tee box and number 10 there. And then just to the left is our short game practice area. We don't have a driving range here. We're a little bit
Mhm.
landlocked, but we did expand our practice green. We opened that last year. It was our big
Mhm.
project. So,
Oh, nice. Okay. And you've got a few sim bays to hit into as well.
yeah.
Um, okay, so yeah, let's look at some data. So here's what we call the analytics hub. So this is a single day, not long ago, Saturday, busy Saturday, and yeah, it shows how every single round went. So that is here. And obviously the colors are the same throughout the system as they are on the screen. Green is good for pace. Purple is delayer. Orange is you're being delayed. And red is just slow but no impact on others. So you can immediately see where the head of the snake is here. And then you've recovered the rest of the day again. But this day comes in at 3 hours 55. And yeah, 38 groups out, right? So there's a fair bit of traffic. And then we've got the whole by whole run times, and we've got our breakdown of how many of these groups were now faster than pace. Because yeah, sometimes you have a fast play problem, right? If there's a twosome really pushing, well, they also need to understand that the group in front of them may be perfectly on pace, but they're just really quick about it. So blue is anyone who's quicker than pace, then on pace within 10 minutes, within 20 minutes. And this is, yeah, fantastic data in terms of the results that you were able to achieve. But you can also dial that out and look at a week, a month, or a quarter, or at a whole season. So how do you use this? How is it yeah, interesting to you guys to look at that data?
This is not something I largely have a hand on, but Alan, our golf operations manager, he pulls these reports monthly and includes them in our board reports. Our board really loves data.
Mm.
They love to see what we're doing well and where improvements can be made. Several of them are golfers. They like being able to see what we're doing and throw in suggestions about where we might be able to improve. Obviously, we were doing something right that day,
Yes.
and we had quite a few rounds ahead of pace. We probably
Yeah.
had a better caliber of golfer, and having them spread out in the morning, obviously, too, they can play a little quicker, um, which is nice as well.
Yeah.
So these
Look,
get pulled monthly for us.
okay. That's great. And that's exactly what it's for, right? So it's for the back of house management and for yeah, reporting and really looking, are we getting better? Are we improving? And very often improvement is not a switch, right? It is actually incremental, and it comes down to creating processes and habits and sticking with them and looking for little ways to get better all the time. And then over a period, you then really get big impact changes. And trust me, our team has looked really hard to find a day where it was 5 hour rounds and everything was red on here, so just so we could show it, but they didn't find one. Things are just going too well at Shepherd's Crook. Now I'm joking, but that is the absolute truth. and there's a reason for it, right? So your goal time is 4:06, and you came in at 4:03 for your entire season's data. And that is fantastic, right? So I think next year, dialing in a little bit more here or there, you might just squeeze that onto the 4 hours. And then hopefully you'll put that all over your marketing materials and advertise it to everybody. Yeah, what was the pace like when you first started out with the system before you started dialing in? Like I'm told it was 4:15 on average, or was that just anecdotally
Yeah,
what you measured?
we kind of aimed for 4 hours 15, 4:10 because we knew that's what
Yeah,
our course was playing in.
yeah.
Um, and so we went hole by hole and kind of figured out how much time we thought everybody would spend on certain holes and how much time we thought people would spend on the turn. Obviously, we want to get them out on the course and don't want them to lose their spot, so we tried to minimize that. And then
Yeah.
after using it for the first year, we didn't get it installed until probably June. So we really only got a couple months of use out of it the
Mhm,
first
mhm,
year. So this was our first full year of having Tag Marshall on all of our golf carts. So we this year were able to narrow down, okay, we can see that this hole is playing a lot faster, whereas this
mhm,
hole we thought would
mhm.
play faster is actually playing a lot slower, and kind of dial those back into what they're actually playing at and narrow down those goal times so that we're much closer to our goal of 4 hours. So
Mhm.
um, there's obviously some wiggle room on certain holes, and we can go back and look at that and make
Yeah,
adjustments as needed.
nice. Yeah, we'll talk to the whole by whole runtimes just now, but maybe pointing out here that your start of day average is 3 hours 40, and your later in the day average for 18 holes is 3 hours 30, right? So there is obviously a little bit of opportunity uh, to go a bit quicker at certain parts of the day. And what we find is that some operators are saying, great, like if our golfers really are going half an hour, 40 minutes faster, we can actually tighten the intervals a little bit, and maybe there's another tee time in that, right? But your pace distribution again, and this is how many groups are on 40 minutes faster, 30, 20, your really quick groups versus on pace versus within 10 minutes. So you have, yeah, what looks like yeah, almost 70% of your groups are on pace or within 10 minutes of pace, and only a small percentage is out, and that is on a tight 4 hours and 6 minutes. So that really only happens by design, and because you have things dialed in so nicely. And one of the metrics here to look at is what's the hole by hole runtime, right? Because when we first start out, the operator normally gives us a list of here's how we think a hole should be played, and then we run data through that. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 minute, 5 minute variability, right? And think about it, 3 minute variability on 10 holes, it's 30 minutes. 30 minutes difference. And yeah, it's fantastic to see that you have obviously done a number of adjustments to that, dialed it really tightly already, and most of your holes are within just a couple of seconds of your anticipated run time through them. So this really speaks to yeah, a well dialed in system and process. And you mentioned hole number 6 was your big adjustment that you made.
Yep, with the new tee boxes, and now
Yeah.
that you can see and you're not looking for lost golf balls, that hole plays
Yeah,
a whole lot faster. But we didn't get those tee boxes open until mid-year.
got you.
And number 5 is one of our hardest handicapped holes, so that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
that one
yeah.
is now playing a little bit slower.
Yeah, and that's fine. You like if it's a hard hold, you also need to allow it the time. But you'll probably find that the moment your whole 6 tee boxes got opened up, that this because this is a whole year, or basically there was a pre-renovation period. That's actually things are even quicker, right? And that is exactly what you're saying. But now you have the data to back it. Okay, then last question. What are some of the things that you as a team were worried about potentially when it came to can we get technology going here? And also, what are the players saying? What's the player feedback for you?
So obviously, because our average golfers seem to be an older group. They're retired. That's where a large group of golfers was. They don't like technology, so we were a little bit worried. Can they learn how to use it? Will they be okay with it being on their cards? Will they ignore it? We don't know what their interaction would be like. Obviously, they really like it.
Mm.
Um, they like being able to touch a screen and say, oh well, it's 100 yards to that sand trap over there, and it's 120 over here to this other hazard. So they do like that feature, and I think it allows them what they might not have a rangefinder or utilize one. They now have that opportunity to
Mm.
utilize a rangefinder feature without having to have a rangefinder on them or keep track of something like that. So they do like that. And it's a nice additional feature for your average golfer who's never played here before, being able to see, a review of the hole and how they might play it differently. And for a better golfer who needs all of that data, they really like
Sure.
that. Um, and I mean, I think those are our biggest interactions with people is they just like having the screen there.
Great. And then in terms of your considerations, because I know that you're obviously not in the city, right? Sometimes connectivity may be an issue. Is that something that's come up in your deliberation when you decided
Yeah.
can we get technology or not?
It was. We typically have pretty terrible cell signal in the area here. There are quite a few dead zones kind of being in between two large cities and so close to the lake because you don't have any cell towers out on the lake, so you're a little bit
Mhm.
limited. But we worked with you guys pretty closely in deciding which service was going to be best for us. And we've never had any connectivity issues with a golf cart disappearing off the course, or not registering around, or all of a sudden not working for some reason. We've never had any issues with that. We were able to find a service that worked well for us. And we've never had an issue with battery life either, being that it's wired directly into the battery on the carts. And so I've never seen lower than 80 or 98% where it's dropped below that. Typically, they
Mhm.
stay pretty close to 100%. So we've never had an issue with one of the tablets dying on there and one of the screens dying. It's not been an issue.
That's great feedback. That's how it's designed, right? But we're also cognizant, obviously, there's 70 units out there, right? And even at a 0.5% failure rate, eventually you might find one car that's unhappy. But look, it gets a lot of usage, and you're doing more than 25,000 rounds. So it's great to hear that it works so well and everything's dialed in. I wanted to, yeah, thank you for your time and the insight, and thanks everyone for staying on. I know we're 3 minutes over now, and we will make sure that you get your PDR credits. Please do look out for our heroes here out in the field. John Wilmore is one of my co-founders. Loves coming up um, to the area. I believe he's there right now. So yeah, do reach out to him if you have any questions. And Jerry Waters, our GM, who really takes fantastic care of our partners alongside our customer success team. Yeah, who are many of them are PGA professionals that actually work with you and get you dialed into the course. Is that something that you utilize and just that from getting the training and things like that for your team as far as our learning management system and our customer success and so on is concerned?
Yeah, when we first got everything installed, we had all of our pro shop staff walk through the training so that they had a pretty good feel for how it would be utilized, and we got them really comfortable before the season really got underway, which is hugely
Mm,
impactful. So there weren't as many growing pains since we were able to get that done on the front end. Um, and it sounds like there's some great new features coming our way, so we're excited about those. Like the new dashboard, we're getting our
mm,
staff all transferred over to that. So far, they're liking it, but they're still mousing around trying to get that all figured out. And
sure.
we're excited about the wind speed, which I know you didn't speak to at any point today, but we're excited about that coming to us next year too.
Yeah, you're talking about the wind tag. I was going to, but I'm mindful that we're out of time now, Kara. So what you're referring to is that a wind meter that sits on the flag and measures the live wind, which obviously I know that there's wind where you guys are at, right? And then that gets displayed on the screen, so it'll show the players, hey, there's a 13-mile hurting wind and what to do with your club selection. And it also automates the pin position, right? So yeah, we make sure that that's there's lots of information around that going out there, and yeah, we'd love for you guys to be on the list of clubs that start working with it into the new season. I want to thank you for your time, and yeah, hope to see you and the team at the PGA show
Yeah,
which
we're
is
looking forward to
only
it.
only a few weeks away now, which is always scary because obviously that's a lot of prep for our team to make sure that we get everything ready and finalized before that. So once they're counting down weeks, I know it's getting real. Thank you so much for the time and the fantastic session and insight. Really appreciate it, and we will see you in Orlando.
All right, sounds great. See you then.
All right, thank you.